I am delighted that Nadine Dorries has now finally resigned, and it makes for something to actually say on this rather dull Saturday. But I, it's a time to put out the flags until you start reading the unbelievable and turgid rubbish that she's actually written. It's the sentence structure, her grammar, her punctuation is flawed. There's not a paragraph of this letter that is entirely coherent, and this is from somebody who puts her name to 8 novels. I can't remember how many I've read. None of them sound like this. None of them sound as incoherent, as ranting, as vengeful, as spiteful as this resignation letter. I think it will go down in history as probably one of the most unhinged resignation letters. This is so far from the savaged by a sheep resignation statement that brought Mrs. Thatcher to or that began the process of bringing Mrs. Thatcher to an end. If she thinks she's dealing some sort of death blow, I'm afraid she is sadly misinformed and sadly deluded. This is not a death blow. This is a put out the flags moment. And I'm sure Rishi is hoisting his own flag up the pole as we speak. It's extraordinary. Quite apart from the personal insults, she manages to restrain herself from using the word posh boys, but she gets it out in some form. Listen to this. When many of the CEOs I spoke to in the tech sector and business leaders really wanted, what many of the CEOs I spoke to in the tech sector and business leaders really wanted was meaningful regulatory reform from you as Chancellor to enable companies not only to establish in the UK, but to list on the London Stock Exchange rather than the New York. You flashed your gleaming smile in your Prada shoes. Is his smile in his shoes? And Savile Row suit from behind a camera. But you just weren't listening. Why has she got the word just in there? The word just is often used by stupid people who want an extra syllable. So you can find it in a number of pop songs like, I just called to say I love you. The word just serves no purpose in that song at all. And nor does Nadine Dorries here. In the previous, she says, all they received in return were platitudes and a speech illustrating how wonderful life was in California. London is now losing its appeal as more UK-based companies seek better listing opportunities in the US. That, Prime Minister, is entirely down to you. The last line is good. The rest of the paragraph stinks. Let's go to the previous paragraph. In the DHSC, I championed meaningful improvements to maternity and neonatal safety. I launched the Women's Health Strategy and pushed forward a national evidence-based trial for Group B strep testing in pregnant women with the aim to reduce infant deaths. When I resigned as Secretary of State for DCMS, I was able to thank the professional, dedicated and hard-working civil servants for making our department the highest performing in Whitehall. Madness and untrue. We worked tirelessly to strengthen the online safety bill. It hasn't happened. To protect young people. Froze the BBC licence fee. Included the sale of Channel 4 into the media bill. Wasted a lot of time. Didn't bother reading Mail, she could have added, to protect its long-term future, and led the world in imposing cultural sanctions when Putin invaded Ukraine. That's got nothing to do with the DCMS. That was entirely to do with the Prime Minister. Anyway, let's go on. Long before my resignation announcement in July 2022, I had advised the Cabinet Secretary Simon Case of my intention to step down. Senior figures in the party, close allies of yours, have continued to this day to implore me to wait until the next general election rather than inflict yet another damaging by-election on the party at a time when we are consistently 20 points behind in the polls. Well, name them. If you think that's true, name them, because that isn't the evidence that we have seen. So that's interesting. Having witnessed firsthand as Boris Johnson and then Liz Truss were taken down, I decided that, having witnessed what? I decided that the British people had a right to know what was happening in their name. No, what you said on your television program, that you wanted to know why you hadn't been given a peerage. Why is it that we have had 5 consecutive prime ministers since 2010, with not one of the previous 4 having left office as a result of losing a general election? That is a democratic deficit which the mother of parliaments should be ashamed of, and which, as you and I know, is the result of the machinations of a small group of individuals embedded deep at the centre of the party and Downing Street. I'm sure you're right. Isn't it called the ECRG or something? To start with, my investigations focused on the political assassination of Boris Johnson, but, you should put a comma after that, as I spoke to more and more people, and, comma, I have spoken to a lot of people, good comma, from ex-prime ministers, cabinet ministers, both ex and current, comma, through all levels of government and Westminster, and even journalists. A dark story, this is so confused, a dark story emerged which grew ever more disturbing with each person I spoke to whom I spoke. So we can see what she means, but the artifice of actually writing a paragraph has eluded her here, and the punctuation is pedestrian. It became clear to me, comma, as I worked, comma, that remaining as a backbencher, hyphen, was incompatible with publishing a book which exposes how the democratic process at the heart of the country has been corrupted. Okay. As I uncovered this alarming situation, I knew, such were the forces ranged against me, that I was grateful to retain my parliamentary privilege until today. And, as you also know, comma, Prime Minister, comma, these forces are today the most powerful figures in the land. Well, maybe. I mean, it's a conspiracy theory she's promoting. The onslaught against me even included the bizarre spectacle of the Cabinet Secretary claiming, without evidence, to a select committee that he had reported me to the Whips and Speaker's office. There should be apostrophes there. Not only have neither office been able to confirm this was true, but they have no power to act, as he well knows. And then the sentence stops suddenly. It is surely a clear breach of civil service impartiality, as you could wish to see. If this had been handed to me as an essay, I would hand it back and tell the person to rewrite it. But worst of all has been the spectacle of a Prime Minister demeaning his office by opening the gates to whip up a public frenzy against one of his own MPs. Okay. You failed to mention in your public comments that there could be no writ moved for a by-election over summer, and that the earliest any by-election could take place is the end of September. Actually, all the other by-elections took place before the House rose. The clearly orchestrated, and almost daily personal attacks demonstrate the pitifully low level your government has descended to which your government has descended. It is a modus operandi, a little bit of Latin there, very nice, established by your allies, which has targeted Boris Johnson, transferred to Liz Truss, and now moved on to me. I think you've got delusions of grandeur, Nadine. Johnson and Truss were both prime ministers. You are an insignificant backbencher who has been a particularly lame minister. But I have not been a prime minister. No, you have not. And you're not going to be a peer either. Let's get out the bunting as well as the flags. I do not have security or protection, nor, it seems, very much coherence. Attacks from people led by you declared open season on myself, on me, and declared open. Oh, yeah, just, yeah. And the past weeks have resulted in the police having to visit my home and contact me on a number of occasions due to threats to my person. Ooh. Since you took office a year ago, the country is run by a zombie parliament where nothing meaningful has happened. I agree. What exactly has been done or have you achieved? Now we're getting a string of rhetorical questions, I think. You hold the office of Prime Minister unelected without a single vote, not even from your MPs. Well, Nadine, you should know the Prime Minister in this country is not elected. You have no mandate from the people, and the government is adrift. You have squandered the goodwill of the nation. For what? And what a difference it is now since 2019, when Boris won an 80-seat majority and a greater percentage of the vote share than Tony Blair in the Labour landslide victory of 97. We were a mere 5 points behind on the day he was removed from office. Since you became Prime Minister, his manifesto has been completely abandoned. We cannot simply disregard the democratic choice of the electorate, remove both the Prime Minister and the manifesto commitments they voted for, and then expect to return to the people in the hope that they will continue to unquestioningly support us. They have agency. They will use it. I think there's some semicolons missing there, but the fact is wrong. The manifesto was abandoned by Liz Truss, and Rishi Sunak hasn't done much more than that. Levelling up has been discarded. I agree. And with it, those deprived communities we sought to serve. I agree. Social care ready to be launched, abandoned along with the hope of all of those who care for the elderly and the vulnerable. The online safety bill has been watered down. BBC funding reform, the clock run down, the Mental Health Act timed out. Defence spending reduced. Our commitment to net zero, animal welfare and green issues so relevant to the planet and voters under 40 squandered. As Lord Goldsmith wrote in his own resignation letter, because you simply do not care about the environment or the natural world. What exactly is it you do stand for? The content of that paragraph is excellent, but the expression is a little bit limp. That should have been the opening paragraph, or at least near the beginning. Instead, she's opted for a chronological rant. You have increased corporation tax to 25%. Do you mind if I continue? Because this is fascinating me. You have increased corporation tax 25%, taking us up to the level of the highest tax take since World War II at 75% of GDP, and you have completely failed in reducing illegal immigration or delivering on the benefits of Brexit. The bonfire of EU legislation swerved. The Windsor Framework Agreement, a dead duck brought into existence by shady promises of future preferment with grubby rewards and potential gongs to MPs. Anyway, Stormont is still not sitting. Well, she finishes on a sentence. Disregarding your own Chancellor last week, you took credit for reducing inflation, citing your plan. There has been no budget, no new fiscal measures, no debate. There is no plan. Such statements take the British public for fools. The decline in the price, so she's now become a saviour of the British public. Tell that to her constituents in mid-Bedfordshire. The decline in the price of commodities such as oil and gas, the eased pressure on the supply of wheat, and the increase in interest rates by the Bank of England are what has taken the heat out of the economy and reduced inflation. For you to personally claim credit for this was disingenuous at the very least. It is a fact that there is no affection for Keir Starmer out on the doorstep. Probably true. He does not have the winning X-factor qualities of a Thatcher, a Blair, or a Boris Johnson, and sadly, Prime Minister, neither do you. Your actions have left some 200 or more of my MP colleagues to face, and I don't think they're colleagues anymore, Nadine. You've resigned to face an electoral tsunami and the loss of their livelihoods because, in your impatience, in your impatience to become Prime Minister, you put your personal ambition above the stability of your country and our economy. Wait, she's correct, but oh my goodness, this is the sort of rant that one might get pre-GCSE. it's almost incoherent. I can see what she wants to say, but this is not the sort of thing that is worthy of an MP. This is the sort of thing I don't know. This this is just puerile. Bewildered, we look in vain. Oh, for the grand political vision for the people of this great country to hold on to, that would make all this disruption and subsequent inertia worthwhile, and we find absolutely nothing. Again, I entirely agree with the sentiment. It's the expression which is so lacking, and surely she's had time. She's had, what, over 70 days to construct this damning letter, like the attack of Brutus, like the savaging of the sheep in the beginning of the end of Thatcher. But this is not it. This is the rant of a schoolchild in need of a teacher's correction. This is the rant of a first-time novelist badly in need of an editor, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. I shall take some comfort. Well, I hope there is some comfort. I suspect isn't there a thing called Southern comfort? I shall take Southern comfort from explaining to people exactly how you and your allies achieved this undemocratic upheaval in my book. Oh my goodness, she's going to write a book with the same grammar. Actually, although I said I really don't want to read any more of her rubbish, I will buy that book. I just buy it, and I think I'll put in the corrections and send it back to the publisher. I am a proud working-class conservative, which is why the levelling up agenda was so important to me. Well, great. I mean, we want to hear that, and I think it's wonderful that she is finally recognizing she has a place. But we didn't hear that for much of her time. And I remember her speech when she stood up in the House of Commons and passionately explained what it was to be a constituency MP, and she hasn't been that for the last year. I know personally how effective a strong and helping hand can be to lift someone out of poverty, and how vision, hope, and opportunity can change lives. Absolutely. You have abandoned the fundamental principles of conservatism. In what way? It's just an allegation here. She hasn't demonstrated how. So it's as if she's starting an entirely new rant at this moment. And she's practically finishing her letter. History will not judge you kindly. Great way to finish her piece, but that line should be right at the end, not now. I shall today inform the Chancellor of my intention to take the Chiltern Hundreds, enabling the writ to be moved on September the 4th, there's no the necessary, for the by-election you were so desperately seeking to take place. Yours sincerely, Nadine Dorries. It's a letter of somebody who is so angry that they haven't bothered to check it. It may have gone through some sort of AI chat. I don't know to proofread the spelling, but the grammar is hopeless, and the punctuation for somebody who's been writing novels. I've got some of them above me here. For some of them, I don't understand, because her novels are not as badly punctuated and as inept in expressing their intent as this letter is. This is supposed to be the most important letter of her life, and it's something that could have been written. It's a draft. It's a draft, and not a draft that makes any sense. It's sort of anal draft. I mean, it's just bad, and I would have given this probably a 2 out of 10. I don't think I would give it any more than that. In fact, I would politely suggest she goes off and reworks it. But I am delighted that she's got to this point. and I think bad grammar, bad paragraphing, bad everything. This is a day to rejoice.